Do you in general think that corporate America is on the right track by buying carbon offsets? Are these, to the average American citizen, are they helping to reduce fossil fuel emissions?
I think a general answer's got to be no to that, at least as the offsets market stands today. It's going to be part of a long-term solution to have 5 or 10% of the climate solution come from mechanisms like this, but you need to be looking for companies that are directly cutting their emissions or investing in clean energy and strategies for reducing emissions in industry and agriculture. That's where to look.
Why doesn't it work? If I'm a big, let's just say a big polluter, and I say, listen, I can't really change my process in the near term, but I'm going to buy carbon offsets, which presumably mean forests are planted or something like that. And so on net, that's better for the planet than if I weren't doing so. What's the problem with that strategy?
There's nothing wrong with the theory of that. The problem is the execution. The claim that's being made is essentially a claim that's not observable. Nobody can see what would have happened to the forest if the claim isn't made. And when you look at the markets in practice, the standards that are being set don't have particularly stringent standards. The price points are set in ways that can't possibly encourage significant reductions. And we see these problems both in the California cap and trade program, which has the largest offsets program in North America and is arguably much better regulated and more strongly situated than the voluntary markets where most of the corporate purchases are happening. So there's basically a lack of standards and the private market is completely unregulated. Now
that there's going to be a flood of capital into this space, it sounds like there needs to be better standards immediately. So you've heard about the trillions that the sort of American investor base is putting into the ESG movement. How can they direct that money to make sure that if they want corporate America to be offsetting their emissions through programs like these, that it's actually happening?
Well, I think one of the most important things that corporate America needs to grapple with is the difference between a company that's actually directly investing in emission reductions or clean sources of energy versus those that are making climate claims that are contingent on offset credits. Those are very different strategies, and I think need very different oversight and robustness checks on them. As to the offset side of the puzzle, I mean, the frank piece of the problem here is that the entire industry is rife with conflicts of interest. The people who issue the credits make money trading on the volume of those credits. The people who make the claims and do the documentation are paid by the people who earn the credits. Ultimately, and we just don't have any financially disinterested oversight, either from the university system or from a government regulator. And I think that's something that needs to be taken really seriously if the sector is going to move in a more positive direction.
Not just that, but if we were to move to some kind of scheme more broadly where, cap and trade or what have you, what would that mean for increasing the scale of these existing programs and maybe increasing the problems that go along with them?
Well, so there's a number of efforts right now to scale this program up, to scale these markets up, particularly in the voluntary sector. And the number one problem is there's just so many problems with the current status quo. If you try and scale it, you're not going to fix the problems. We need to focus on fixing the problems first before we try and scale this 10 or 100-fold, which is what the discussions are. There aren't enough high-quality credits that are out there to satisfy the corporate demand that exists. And the chicken and the egg problem is that until we fix the quality problem and start setting the price point in the market where it actually needs to be to deliver those climate benefits, we won't encourage people to start doing the real projects that make a difference. And we're stuck in a loop on that, and that needs to end.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.